What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Tayler Kyles here for CLNS Media outside of Gillette Stadium as the Patriots just wrapped up their entire 2024 training camp here on Friday. So we're here to give you some training camp takeaways. We're going to start with the offensive side of the football. A reminder, we are powered by Prize Picks and Game Time. Head over to Prize Picks, use code CLNS for a deposit match bonus up to $100. Head over to Game Time, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Let's start with the quarterbacks. Top takeaway, I think we can all agree that sure, it seems like Drake Maye may start sooner rather than later, but it's also pretty clear at this point in time that Jacoby Brissett is QB1 and it's his job.
Yeah, we have yet to see Drake Maye take really significant competitive reps with David Andrews at center. It is significant that he did mix in with pretty much every starter other than Andrews, who we did see him with at times yesterday, but that was, like today, a walkthrough practice where they clearly were trying to get ready for the game, so I don't want to read too much into that. But Jacoby Brissett has taken all of those reps where he's both against the starting defense and with the starting offense. Clearly he's a starter. Alex Van Pelt called him the starter yesterday. Gerard Mayo also reiterated that Jacoby is still the starter. And based on the comments that we heard from Alex Van Pelt and TC McCartney yesterday, it seems like the big thing keeping Drake Maye off the field right now is, one, the fact that Jacoby Brissett hasn't been so bad that they can't play him. He's still a functional veteran, a guy who they know what they're going to get out of. They mentioned that multiple times. But also the fact that Drake Maye just hasn't seen anyone but the Patriots defense, really. He obviously saw Philly in their joint practice in the game. He saw the Panthers defense, but those were obviously vanilla game plans against primarily backups. So I think the team wants to get him some games under his belt so he has a better idea of what different schemes look like in the NFL, see how Jacoby Brissett solves those things. They mentioned he has to have the answers to all the different problems that can come up. So they probably want to get a Rolodex so he has on tape, look what Jacoby did in this situation, before they want to actually throw him out there. I'm fine with that. I've been saying I don't want you to rush him out there, but I do also think he could start week one if he had to. They've acknowledged he can run the huddle. He's been the best quarterback all summer in practice. I don't think you're going to find anybody debate that. But at the same time, Jacoby Brissett, still a veteran who's spent time in the NFL. You don't need to throw Drake Maye into the fire immediately.
Yeah, something Van Pelt said yesterday too. There is sort of a recipe towards, what you do and how you bring a rookie quarterback along. And I think the point where he has only seen the Patriots defense, he's seen the vanilla defenses in games, and really the only disguising coverages and really heavy blitzes or vice versa has been that one practice against the Eagles where he didn't even really get a great look because the offensive line was so bad. So I still think that at the end of the day, right now, as we sort of know, it's Jacoby Brissett's job to lose. So there is a starting quarterback. There is no starting offensive line right now, Taylor. That is still very much up in the air. I would say the offensive line is a mystery. Tackle depth has become a problem. Calvin Anderson's been out for some time. Vidarian Lowe, who was looking like the left tackle of this team, has now been out for 2 straight practices. And so far it's been Chuks Okorafor back on the left side with who the hell was the right tackle? Mike Onwenu.
Mike Onwenu, yeah.
Chuks Okorafor has been on the left side with Mike Onwenu now bumming up from guard to tackle on the right side, something that they've basically changed over the last 2 days. So as much as Gerard Mayo wanted to have this, nailed down as the third preseason game comes, it's more of a mystery than ever.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully Vidarian Lowe isn't out for too long. It was reported by Christopher Price and Mark Daniels yesterday that he's dealing with an oblique. Was it an oblique?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just go back to it was reported.
Yeah.
It was reported by Mark Daniels and Christopher Price yesterday that he is dealing with an oblique injury, should just be short term. I think you can slot him back into that left tackle spot whenever he's healthy. But the Patriots were rotating with different offensive line combinations earlier last week, saying that it was basically to practice an emergency situation. And with the Browns, Scott Peters and Alex Van Pelt, they had, I think he mentioned 11 different offensive line combinations. Scott Peters told us yesterday. So they've seen firsthand how bad things can get on the offensive line. Patriots also no strangers to that. Unfortunately, still the tackle depth doesn't look very good because you have to kick Onwenu back out at right tackle. While that may seem like it's the long-term plan for this team, as it seems like they want Caden Wallace as a left tackle of the future, Sidney So, then on the other side, Layden Robinson and Mike Onwenu, like we've seen. Caden Wallace seems like he's not quite ready to be a starter. If you look at the preseason, he's put good things on tape, but it's been far from perfect. Whereas Layden Robinson, again, no player is perfect, but he's been damn close. He's looked really good this preseason. So even if we do see more of a shakeup, I wouldn't be surprised if Layden Robinson is still in that starting lineup, but with no Calvin Anderson, Tyrone Wheatley Jr. on injured reserve. Don't know how much he factored in anyway, but outside of Caden Wallace, obviously there's not a ton of really good tackles in the NFL, period. Scott Peters mentioned that, but it's not looking great for the outside, although the interior is looking solid with depth options like Nick Leverett at center, even Michael Jordan, who could either make the practice squad or potentially be a dark horse to make the roster. They've used him in some different roles, so pretty much sums it up. Not great on the outside, better inside.
Especially with, taking Mike Onwenu out of the out of the inside towards the outside. Now you're losing inside depth. You think someone like Michael Jordan could potentially be a dark horse to make the roster. Let's run through the skill position players now, Taylor. Running back, looks like clear as day, Ramondre Stevenson is this team's starter. Antonio Gibson will be the change of pace back. JaMychal Hasty and Kevin Harris both seem like they have a spot on this team. You know, you wonder if they keep 3 or 4 running backs, but it looks like at this point in time, they both have a role here.
Yeah, this is an offense that's going to run through its ground game, so you'd expect they keep at least 3 running backs. Entering the summer, I think Kevin Harris and JaMychal Hasty weren't guys that we were super excited about. JaMychal Hasty did take advantage of some opportunities before they were in pads during the spring. But
it was a big passing camp back.
Exactly.
Catching a ton of passes, but no real, no offensive line.
And we were saying, like, Kevin Harris, he wasn't really someone who could shine in those non-padded practices, but I think he's had a good preseason and summer overall. JaMychal Hasty's looked really good as a backup change of pace / receiving back. So I think one of those guys is going to end up making the roster. The other could probably start on the practice squad. You can find some way to still keep them around, but Kevin Harris and JaMychal Hasty, 2 guys to keep your eye on. I think they'll have roles on this team, at least one of them. And even Terrell Jennings, I think he's going to make the practice squad. He's looked really good in terms of his contact balance and power.
Pass catcher's an all-important position here in Foxboro. Obviously, coming into the summer, looked like Jalen Polk was just a young rookie, and Tyquan Thornton was on the roster bubble and maybe more so on the outside looking in. Today, leaving here on Friday, it looks like those two could be starters in this passing game.
Yeah, it looks like Tyquan Thornton's your starting X receiver. He's gotten a ton of praise from the coaching staff. He didn't do much this summer. He had a couple flashes here and there, so hopefully you get more from Tyquan when the season actually starts, but great for him. We talked about it. Availability's been a concern. Consistency's been a concern. Checked both of those boxes for the most part this summer, so great for him. And then Jalen Polk seems like he's the starting Z receiver for this offense. You've seen him and KJ Osborne kind of mix and match a little bit at that Z spot with the top offense, but most periods it has seemed like Jalen Polk has been the top dog. Demario Douglas looks like Demario Douglas. Looks like he's in for a breakout season out of the slot. Then some of the other young receivers like Javon Baker was really impressive in the late part of the spring and the early part of summer. He's really flamed out, although he did have a good practice yesterday. I think it's just going to take him time, really maybe get out of his head so he can be more consistent as a pass catcher. And then as a route runner, he still has a lot of things to work on, particularly as an X, where he's going to have to work on the boundary, be able to be physical, not get bullied out of bounds, and work the sideline. Still think he has a role on this team long term. Then you got Jalen Reagor, probably going to be more of a kick returner, but did have some flashes as well this summer as what looks like he's the second string X receiver. And even Kayshon Boutte. I think this team is going to have 7 receivers.
Yeah, definitely.
While Boutte has been inconsistent, he still had a ton of flashes. When you see Drake Maye, a lot of the time they mix him with all young receivers, and that grouping is typically Javon Baker, Jalen Polk, and Kayshon Boutte. They want this group to have some kind of rapport, so going to be a lot of receivers. I think second year in a row we see them keep 7 guys.
Yeah, I think they're going to go up from last year. This receiver room was, frankly, a bore last year. They weren't great. They didn't help. As bad as Mac Jones was, nobody really helped out on offense. So, guys, 7 receivers who I think could at least come in and be respectable in this Alex.
Also, didn't even mention KJ Osborne. Let me throw him in there.
Yeah, he was in the rotation with Polk. But yeah,
and he's just been so steady. I do want to give him credit because he was someone I thought was a fringe lock. I thought if the young guys really emerge and balled out, maybe you cut him just because he's on a 1-year deal. But as a leader, he's really stood out. Everybody gives him a lot of praise in that regard. But also as a player, you've seen him and Drake Maye start to build a little bit of a rapport, especially over the past week or so. So KJ Osborne looks like what we expected, that consistent Kendrick Bourne type who can line up all over the formation and give you some consistent production.
Let's round it out with the tight ends. Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, both looked good early in camp. Austin Hooper looked to have a quick rapport with quarterback Jacoby Brissett. Hunter Henry's obviously Hunter Henry, reliable veteran, but Henry gets hurt last week. Hasn't been out here practicing since. Mitchell Wilcox, the 3rd and 4th tight end, he gets hurt last week. LaMichael Petway looked like he was dealing with something. He ended up returning, but Austin Hooper left with an injury at one point over the last couple weeks, so really quickly the tight end depth became thin. They've leaned on rookie Jaheim Bell. He's been up and down. Some days he's been great, some days he's been not involved. So something to look for. We've talked about it off air, off camera, where this could be a team that ends up finding a 3rd tight end off the scrap heap, whether it's a free agent, whether it's a waiver claim, after the 53-man rosters come out.
Yeah, tight end has been probably the most shallow position on this roster, or at least one of for the offense. Going all the way back to the spring, and because of the injuries, it really has only been exacerbated this summer. You're hoping that Hunter Henry, they're just trying to play it safe. It's like we know exactly what Hunter is.
Right.
We don't need him out here potentially hurting himself. Because it seemed like there were multiple practices where he got dinged up in some way and then was walking funny or seemed like he was paying attention to a certain part of his body. So I just hope he's ready for week 1, but don't mind the fact that he didn't really participate in camp. Then Austin Hooper, who's been inconsistent. You still hope he's on the field because that's your veteran, your experienced guy. And with this offense, they love multiple tight end sets. But then Jaheim Bell, I mean, he's had some production. He had the day where he had 3 touchdowns, but really all were to the flat. I gotta say, he hasn't really wowed me, unfortunately. I do think you saw some flashes this preseason, like as a blocker on the move, when he can get to the second level, as that underneath type of receiver, but he didn't show the flashes I was hoping for. Very much still a project, but as a 7th rounder, you also kind of expect that. Also kind of dealt with some injury situation there, but I think he's gonna make the opening roster. I'm curious to see how much of a role he actually has on game days. And then Mitchell Wilcox is a guy I just don't think is gonna make this team. The fact that he got hurt really kind of hurt his chances because he wasn't having a great summer to begin with. And then Michael Petway, I think, is still Michael Petway, a guy, maybe he's on the practice squad, but probably not making the team. Jacob Warren actually may have had his best day of the summer. I think he caught multiple passes. Looks like he's their top option as an inline tight end when Hunter Henry isn't here and they're using their multiple tight end sets. So maybe Jacob Warren is a guy to watch for the practice squad, maybe more so even than Michael Petway as a bigger guy with some position versatility, but still very much need help at this position. I think they're probably going to go with 4 if they can help it, and that guy's probably going to not be someone who isn't on the team currently.
That'll wrap up our Patriots training camp coverage here from Gillette Stadium this summer. 20 practices in. These are our offensive takeaways from 2024 training camp. Head over to Patriots Press Pass on YouTube. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, and like the video, and check out all of our written work at clnsmedia.com.
Make sure to subscribe to Patriots Press Pass for all your Patriots news and updates on YouTube, and for all our written work, make sure you check out clnsmedia.com.